It was a typical Friday evening when my parents dropped the bombshell on me. They were leaving for a weekend vacation, leaving me all alone in our old, creaky house. "Don't worry, honey. You're old enough to handle a few days alone," my mom said with a reassuring smile. But as soon as they drove away, an eerie sense of foreboding washed over me, and the house seemed to loom over me like a malevolent presence. I tried to shake off the unsettling feeling and decided to invite my best friend, Emily, over for a movie night. The sound of her laughter brought some comfort, and the night passed uneventfully. But as Emily left, I felt the weight of solitude pressing down on me. The second night was when things started to take a turn. It was around midnight, and I was lying in bed trying to sleep, when I heard a soft, scraping noise coming from the hallway. My heart pounded as I peeked out of my bedroom door, only to find nothing there. "It's just the house settling," I tried to convince myself. But then I heard it again, louder this time, like footsteps, slow and deliberate. My mind raced, and I reminded myself that I was alone in the house. I had locked all the doors and windows. There was no way anyone could be inside. A sense of dread crept over me, and I cautiously crept through the dark hallways with a flashlight, my breath shaky. The sounds seemed to lead me deeper into the house. As I approached the living room, the scraping intensified, and the walls seemed to whisper secrets I couldn't understand. With trembling hands, I flicked on the lights, and my heart nearly jumped out of my chest. There, in the center of the living room, was an old dusty rocking chair, moving back and forth on its own. I had never seen the chair move before, and the thought of it doing so now sent another eerie chill down my spine. Fearful but determined, I inched closer, resolved to find a rational explanation for everything. Maybe a draft was causing the movement. But as I reached the chair, the scraping noise stopped abruptly, and the rocking ceased. It was as if the chair knew I was onto it. I decided to investigate further, hoping to uncover some logical explanation. That's when I noticed the bookshelf. It was an old one, filled with decaying books and knickknacks. As I approached it, one book caught my eye. An ancient, leather-bound tome, the pages seemingly filled with arcane symbols. My curiosity got the better of me, and I opened the book, only to be greeted by strange, chilling illustrations and incomprehensible text. The prickling sense of unease in the air seemed to intensify, and a sudden draft blew out the candle I had brought with me. Suddenly, the house plunged into darkness, and panic set in. I fumbled for my phone to use its flashlight, but found it dead. I was completely isolated in the pitch-black darkness, and an inexplicable sense of being watched overwhelmed me. In my desperation, I called Emily, praying she would answer. But there was only static on the other end. My heart sank, and I felt an overwhelming sense of dread. I couldn't stay there any longer. Groping my way through the darkness, I stumbled towards the front door, intending to flee to a neighbor's house for help. But as I reached for the doorknob, I froze. The door was slightly ajar, and the darkness outside seemed to be thicker than ever. The house seemed to breathe around me, and I felt like an intruder in my own home. I didn't know what horrors awaited me outside, but I knew I couldn't stay trapped in that haunted house any longer. With a burst of courage, I threw the door open and dashed outside. The chilling air hit me, but I felt relieved to be away from the oppressive atmosphere of the house. I ran to the nearest neighbor's house, pounding on their door until they opened. After recounting my terrifying experience, they kindly let me stay with them until my parents returned. When my parents finally came back, I couldn't help but feel relieved that I was no longer alone in that dreadful house. To this day, I'm not sure what I encountered that weekend, but I know I'll never forget the spine-chilling experience of being trapped in that house, alone with whatever haunted its shadows. And even now, the memory of those mysterious footsteps and the ancient Eerie book still sends a tingling sense of unease through my entire body.